Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel. I'm gonna rearrange your face if you continue to debate whether Logan's claws could...
Hey there, comic fam. Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And this is another episode of reviews, previews, and back issue breakdowns. And today we're going to be doing new comic book reviews for the week of February 24th, 2021. And see, these are all the new books that came out on New Comic Book Day this week. Very excited about this because I didn't even know if I was going to have books this week. So many people didn't get their books, and I was able to get mine on the normal day on Wednesday, and so I've been able to read them. And I'm putting out a review video at the normal time that I haven't been able to do that for a while. So very happy to be able to get that done. So this is going to be another one of those unedited videos. I really don't have time to go in and do all the editing today. And so as you can see, it's kind of well lit in the room. We actually have sunlight outside, which is really cool. So that's kind of bringing in some ambient lighting inside of here. And but yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So this episode is brought to you by the Rogue Trader. They're a partner of the show. Do me a favor, go down into the description and click on the link there. It's the roguetraderutah.com. This is who I use for all my pressing and cleaning. If you have books that you need pressed and cleaned before you send in to get them graded, this is a great service. As you know, I've mentioned before that my ratio of 9.8s went way up once I started using their services. The owner proprietor is Eric Strubble. He's a good friend, and he does a great job over there. And he has more than just the pressing and cleaning service. He actually has comic books on the website that you can buy as well. Go over there and check it out. If there's something that you like, when you check out, use the code EVERYTHING20. You get 20% off your purchase. How can you beat that? And also, go check out the Rogue Trader YouTube channel. He's got some really great comic book content that he's putting out, and I wanted to direct as many people over there as I can because we need to give this brother some love. I mean, he does so much for the comic book community, and he's putting out really great content. So go check him out, give him a subscribe, and let's get him rolling. And then also, our other sponsor is the Refuge Coffee House. Of course, they're at 9217 Southeast Foster Road right here in Portland, Oregon. They're one of my favorite coffee shops. That's where I used to film the coffee show, as you know. And if you're ever out here, do me a favor and let me know. I'd love to go have some coffee there with you. But in the meantime, they are trying to keep their lights on. If you go also down in the description, there's a link to their website. They have swag. They have t-shirts and hats and hoodies and beanies and all kinds of stuff, and even coffee for sale. And every purchase goes to help keep the lights on there. And so if you'd be so kind to go check them out, I'd really appreciate it. But I don't have too many announcements going into this particular review video. Just a couple. By the time this drops, Monday, March 1st, at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, check out the channel because I am going to be interviewing the creators of Kanto, and I cannot wait. Drew Zucker and David Booher are going to be on the channel with me. I get to interview them, and of course, like I told you before, it's going to take me a second to fanboy out because I just love Kanto so much, and these are the guys that did the work behind it. So very happy to be able to interview them. Please check it out. It's going to be a fun time. And do me a favor, down inside the description of this video, if you have any questions that you'd like me to ask them, leave that in the comments. I'd love to hear what you want to hear from the Kanto creators. That'd be awesome. Also, as you know, I am on another show. I am on the Comics with Bueller channel, and every Monday at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, the brand new Coffee and Comics show that's where we're at every Monday. And this week's conversation is going to be about what is a key. That's the question that Bueller asked on his preview video. If you want to get in on that conversation, go to the preview video, which dropped on the 24th, just here on Wednesday, and leave a comment on what you believe is a key. And we use your comments to drive our conversation. But if not, just go ahead and join us on Monday. It's going to be a great time. It always is. We always talk about the great, the hottest topics in comics. And it's always one of my favorite times of the week, as I get to hang out with my friend. So definitely check it out. Yeah, he's doing great stuff over there. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get right into our comics this week. I've got a number of them. You'll notice that there's no DC. I pretty much stopped all of the Future State books. I think there was only a couple left at the end, but I was kind of just done with them. And I don't even have too many Marvel, and so I don't even know if I have any Marvel. I think most of this is all indie stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the first one that I have is from Black Box Comics, and this is Shino Kage. And not a month ago, but maybe just a couple of weeks ago, I reviewed issue number 1, and I really liked it. Besides being a huge fan of samurai content, samurai movies, of course, this is a samurai-centric story. Besides that, it was a great first read. And so what ended up happening in the first read is you have this major samurai lord who is trying to absorb all of the other clans as he's on his way to go to the capital to go face off against the shogun. He's trying to become the big cheese. And there's this one clan that doesn't have a huge army. He actually has 7 different samurai. I know that sounds like the 7 samurai, but it's different than that. He has like 7 elite knights, all with special abilities, and that's who makes up the crux of his force. And he's actually down one of those knights because one of them had been killed, but in an ambush. And so we find our main character, who's on the cover of this book. He's the candidate to go through the test to become one of these 7. And these 7 are really cool looking. They're all individual. They got, their armor and the way they hold themselves. You can say they have, 7 different personalities that are really cool, and their abilities are all different. And so last book, we have him going through the trial, which is kind of surreal. It's going to play on all his fears. He's got to face off against supernatural things in order to become one of these chosen 7. And so we got into some of the trials in the last book, and this book kind of continues those trials. And I got to tell you, they were fun. They were there's kind of like a poetic thing going on in the background while he's speaking and going through them. And he faces 3 different trials in this, which were all pretty profound. But I have to say, I really enjoyed the artwork inside of this. Let me get some of the glare out of the way. Some of the action was really great. There is, like I said, there's a poetic thing that's going on. And but I haven't read too much of Black Box Comics. I would say that most of what I've read from them is not as polished as what I'm used to reading normally inside of comic books. So they got a little bit of work to do, but they're new. But I got to tell you, I really enjoyed not just the story inside of this, but the artwork, this painted style and the coloring, really, really well done. And he's going up against this kind of nymph here that's kind of like a water demon, and just fantastic. And so by the end of the book, he conquers the trials, and we know that he's got some more to come in the next book. But we find out in an interlude that the samurai lord, who has these individuals that are kind of enhanced that he's going to the trial for, they're realizing that this other warlord is coming, and they may have acted too late. And so by the time he's done with this trial, it may not even matter anyway. And so we got this kind of race against time that started. But I'm on board. I'm digging this. I'm going to keep it on my pull list. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I would be interested to see what you guys think of it, because I think it's really good. So there you go. Shino Kage from Black Box Comics. Okay, so the next one we have is Department of Truth number 6. Of course, this one by Image Comics. This one, of course, written by James Tynion. The art on this one is Elsa Carretter. And lettering by Aditya Bidikar. But the first thing that just jumped out to me on this book is this artist is not who has been on this book from the very beginning. And I got to tell you, it was such a stark contrast to what we've been used to getting out of this that it really almost put me off. I mean, I think even Bueller said that this is almost a deal breaker. And we found out that this art's not going to be just on the book this month, but it's also going to be there next month as well. So it's a guest artist for 2 issues. But I'll just show you some of the art inside of here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So much different than the first 5 issues, and to me it just doesn't fit. It's just this plain, not polished, feels very amateurish, not very detailed, and it just, I was so surprised at what we got inside of this book. It was, like I said, it's such a stark contrast. I had to put it down, when I first started reading it, because it just it pushed against my senses just that much. You can see, I mean, just, I don't know. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, my hat's off to every artist, but I wouldn't have hired somebody for this. Just to be honest. I mean, look at this face here. And so what we get inside of this book is we get a little more explanation of how the Department of Truth began. We go way back in time. And so this is a telling of, not just way back. In the very beginning, it kind of tells Lee Harvey Oswald's story and how he came to be a part of the Department of Truth. And he goes on this quest of having to read the history of the Department of Truth. So we're getting all these flashbacks on how it began. And that's basically what this whole story is about. We have a scene that goes all the way back to the Roman Empire. And there's this priest or monk who goes out to talk to a witch, and talking about the very same things that we've been dealing with, like what is truth, who holds truth, and truth is power. And so whoever controls the truth has the power. And so still great writing. I don't know if this was necessary. I mean, it was a whole long interlude. I think they could have maybe told that in a very short story. They didn't have to go as detailed as this. But by putting that, as far as I'm concerned, horrible artwork in there with it, this really put me off. And like I agree with Bueller, it was almost a deal breaker. So still love the Department of Truth. I'm still going to stay on it. But I really hope that after that next issue, that we don't get this artist back, because I did not enjoy it. All right, so the next one we have is Something is Killing the Children, issue number 16, right? Is it 16? Number 15. And of course, as you've been hearing, this ties up the current story arc that we've been on since issue 1. And the book is actually taking a break for a few months. I think we get it back in May. And, if you would have told me last month that this book was going to be tied up in a single issue, I would have told you you're crazy. Because it just seemed like, I think we even said it in our last month's review, that it felt like it was starting to get to a point where it was starting to drag on. But not the case. This gets tied up quickly, but not so quickly that it feels wrong. Tynion did a great job in the dynamics that he put in place to tie up all the necessary knots to move on. We get at the very end of the last book, we had our girl Erica going after the remaining monsters, which was the children of the mother of the brood. So we get the tail end of that battle, and she's killed them all, and basically limping into the house. And so that basically ties that up. There's no more monsters in the town. And so we get this meetup with the head of her order, and we find out that the head of her order tells the ones with the white masks that they need to go. You tie up everything and get out of the town. And there's the way those things are tied up. Very well done as well. And so we get Erica basically saying goodbye and leaving the Order of St. George and the House of Slaughter, and going on her own, which, puts a target on her back, number one. But number two, because of the way things happened inside of this whole story arc, that's the way she wants to do things. She wants to save people, and she wants people to have closure, and not just this thing where they take out the monsters and anybody who sees, they kill them all. She has such a conscience towards what's going on, and probably because of the way she was treated when she was younger. And from what I understand, the next story arc, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get her origin story. We're going to get all the scenes from when she was younger, and I'm really looking forward to that. I think one of the special things about this book that it kind of fleshes out is that the House of Slaughter has not just these white masks, and then Erica has the black mask, but there are different families within that house, and so that's kind of interesting to see. And then we find out that there's not just the House of Slaughter, but multiple houses out there that kind of do the same thing. So there's kind of like in John Wick, when we find out that there's this whole other underworld out there. We're finding out that there's this whole other society out there made up of different houses, and that's going to be a lot of fun to flesh out as well. So great end to the arc. Really enjoyed this, and I'm looking forward to when it comes back, because I think Tynian's going to kill it. Just kill it. So awesome stuff. All right, so the next one we have is Two Moons by Image Comics, and this one, let me get it here. This one is written by John Arcudi, and the artist is Valerio Giangiordano. Colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Michael Heisler. I remember when this was solicited, I really was interested in it. I'm a Civil War buff. I love Civil War history, and that's where this, of course, you can see the picture, is based in. And so there's this whole supernatural thing that's going on, and there is a Native American who is starting to see things. He goes to where all the wounded are at, where his, it's like the witch doctor of his tribe, or maybe even his grandfather, I don't remember, but it's an older guy, and he's laying on the edge of his bed, and he goes and has a conversation with him, and the nurse comes up behind him. He looks back at the nurse, and she says, "So sorry, he's gone." And when he turns back, it's just a dead body in a bed. There was no man talking to him. And so that kind of starts this whole supernatural thing. And we start to find out that, this is what's starting to happen to him as we go along. The old guy, basically, when he's on his bed, it kind of looks like that. And then in the next scene, you can see that he's just a body on the bed there. But anyway, so in the midst of this supernatural thing, there's this face-off by a it's basically a battle line, a skirmish line, and he's in the Union part of the army. We see the rebels come. There's a skirmish that happens, and there's this one soldier. He's right here, who's kind of driving everything. And the more we start to get into this particular character, he gets shot, and he doesn't go down. He just gets angry. And by the time he starts to go off, he even gets shot in the face, he kind of turns into like this creature, which was just fantastic looking. But we got this kind of thing. He doesn't really call him a werewolf, but the title is Two Moons. So we got this whole werewolf thing going on here. And the main character who's seeing all this, just like he saw the body on the edge of the bed, he goes to take this thing out. And I think I'm going to leave it there so you guys can read for yourself what happens next. But really, really cool way this ended. And I'm excited to see where they go with it next. I really, really enjoyed the artwork. It was good for what it was. Some of the battle scenes in here were like this one here. I just love that. Check that out. And so it was a great first read, but I think more than anything, it was mostly set up. even though we do have a main character and we see what's going on with him, there wasn't enough there to really get into his personality or who he is, so they haven't fleshed that out yet. We're just kind of left with this thing that's happening to him, so it's mostly set up, but a good read. So definitely check that one out. So next one we got Post Americana number 3. This one by Image Comics. And let's see, this one is written by Steve Scroce and colors by Dave Stewart, and letters by Phonographics. But by the way, Steve Scroce does both the writing and the art. And so this title, I know this. I mean, normally I don't keep a title like this on my pull list. Number one, I've told you I'm kind of burned out on the whole post-apocalyptic, trope in comics. And then this comic book is highly brutal. I mean, there is some brutality that happens in the first 2 books that normally I would have put it down and walked away. But the way they did it, I was so intrigued. And I mean, I guess it was a morbid curiosity. It piqued my interest, and I've kept with it. And so basically in this particular book, we don't get much of the brutality inside of this one. We have our main characters finally getting to a place of, let me show you some of the artwork in here, finally getting to a place of slowing down and getting some help from some people that the girl, one of the main characters, knows. And we kind of find out the history of how all this came to be. And so basically, when the world was ending, the government had an underground bunker, and they had set it up to not only be a military source, but for all the rich people who paid for it, it would be a paradise away from everything where they could survive. So in the end, there's this small force of military and this huge group of elite, like rich people who come to live there, and it's like paradise for them. And they stay in this place for like 50 years while the rest of the world has gone to hell. And so at one particular point, they send somebody out on a scouting expedition, and the group of people that they send out on that expedition are all wiped out except for one guy. And that guy comes back 10 years later and becomes a leader of the whole thing. And he has this mission to wipe out the rest of what's in the wasteland out there in the rest of the world. And he's a pretty evil dude. And so that's kind of the crux of where we're at inside of this. We find out the history of how he became that leader, how they tried to take him down, where he's at now, and how the wasteland is in complete jeopardy because, he's got this high-tech military force that he's just going to go out and repave the world, basically. But we get some really cool moments. The main character, I think her name is Caroline. We kind of flesh out her personality a little bit, which was really cool. You find out some of her history. And we have a really surprise ending with her that was kind of heartfelt. Really cool. But nothing too brutal inside of this. Just backstory on how we have gotten to where we're at now. The artwork I'm enjoying. I mean, it's not my normal style that I like, but I'm enjoying it. And I'm going to ride this out and see where it goes. But Post Americana number 3, it was okay read. I mean, like I said, most of it was just backstory. So I don't know. You guys reading this one? Let me know. All right. So the next one is Ice Cream Man, and this is issue number 23. Of course, this one written by M. Maxwell Prince, art by Martin Marazzo. Colors by Chris O'Halloran, and the lettering by good old Neon. So you guys know I love Ice Cream Man. I think Maxwell Prince is, I think I said it last night, I think he's kind of like a modern day Rod Serling, because he's telling these horror stories, these supernatural stories that are so compelling, and they really get to heartfelt matters of things that we go through, and it deals with hope and despair through the whole thing. So this issue of Ice Cream Man was kind of different than in any past issues. It dealt with this Tonight Show, kind of like the Johnny Carson show, And we don't get like a normal comic book read. We get this huge narrative that you have to read with a little bit of panels like this as we're going through each character that were involved in this incident that happened on the show one night. And so here we get more of the narrative, and we get a little tiny piece of the scene. And the whole book is like that. I mean, every page, just about, until you get to about the middle of the book, and then it goes into a lot more graphics without hardly any read whatsoever, so you can kind of see what actually happened. So the whole thing revolves around this guy who is kind of like Johnny Carson. He's the king of late night TV, and he has one of these wildlife guys come on that bring animals on, and it all revolves around this Burmese python that basically wraps himself around the host and just takes a chomp out of his face. And the rest of the book is the narrative of him being in the hospital and him going through all of the things that he's done inside of his life, and how this is going to be the tipping point that's going to make him lose everything, because his wife was ready to divorce him. He had done a lot of different things to his interns. He knew he was going to get sued by them. It was going to defame him. He'd never be. And so all these things are right there on the cusp of it happening. And that's kind of where this story revolves around. But done in only the way that Max Pearl Prince can do it. Really enjoyed it. I mean, it was, what we're used to getting out of Ice Cream Man. But I would say that, with all these pages, with all of this writing, it's definitely a longer read, but well worth it. So if you're kind of put off by all the writing inside the book, just carve out a little bit of time and sit down and read it. I think you'll dig it. I thought it was worth it. All right. Well, we're moving right along here. Okay, so the next one is Shadow Doctor by Aftershock Comics. This is issue number 1. This is written by Peter Calloway, and the art by George Jantes. I gotta tell you, I loved this issue. I thought it was amazing. As a matter of fact, because I'm seeing where I'm at, I have this out of order. This right here is my pick of the week. Hands down. I just absolutely love it. So right from the very beginning, it tells you this is a true story. And oh my gosh, wow. Just absolutely great. It revolves around this guy who basically during Prohibition is doing basically, moonshine running or liquor running. And there's a whole caravan of trucks you can see here that are carrying all this alcohol. And he basically, they get to this place where there's this tree that's down in the middle of the road, which stops the whole caravan. And when he gets out, he sees that the tree's been cut. And as soon as he says that, out of the woods, all these dudes jump up, and we have machine guns, like a row of machine guns, just taking out everybody in that caravan. And lo and behold, this guy, who's the driver, is the only one who survives. And just because he's kind of in with somebody from all these other gangsters that are out there. And we get a scene where he's under the truck and he's kind of like praying for his life. And because he survives, he writes these 2 letters that basically is the crux for the rest of his life. He is vowed to use his life to help people, and he wants to become a doctor. And so that's what he does. He goes to school, he becomes a doctor, but what he finds out, because this is back at the turn of the century, is that it's very difficult for somebody who was African American to just walk into a hospital and get a job. They would not hire him. And so we find out at the end of this book that he walks in to his old contacts with the mob, and one of them being, at the end, you'll find here, Al Capone himself. And he asked them for help. And all of this is amazing, but the really cool part of this, besides it being a true story, is that it's being written by the grandson of this guy. And the story is about the grandfather actually telling his dad on his deathbed about this thing that happened in his life. It is so well written. The artwork is great. I was so compelled. I loved every second of it. And true to what Aftershock has been doing, they put a lot of extras in the back, so you get this interview or family album, an interview with the Calloway family, and there's the his actual grandfather, and there's this rich history behind what happened, and we're privy to be able to go on this journey of how his grandfather actually became a doctor and survived, and had to do some different things to actually move forward with what he set his life out to do. And I can't wait for this next issue. This was very well done. I think this was Bueller's pick as well. So good, so good. If you haven't got this on your pull list, definitely get it on there. Shadow Doctor #1 by Aftershock. It's amazing. All right, so here's the last book I got. It's also by Aftershock. It's also a first issue. It's Nuclear Family. And hey, you know, this one was a pretty cool read. This one puts you on some familiar ground. It's set back in the 50s, Sputnik era, Cold War, setting. We were on our monthly comic book review last night, and Bueller said it reminded him a lot of Fallout 4 in the very beginning when they're kind of in the bunker, and that's exactly what this is like. We have a family who's, they're hearing all of the stuff going on for the the Cold War. They don't know when they could be attacked or if they're going to be attacked. Some doubt that they will be, others prepare big time, and so we get a slice of life of this family until we actually get a piece at the end where the bombs drop, and immediately they go into the basement. There's a twist at the end. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I would say, again, agreeing with Bueller, this book is mostly just all set up for where we're going. There wasn't enough to really get into all the personalities of the family. It's just basically telling you where the world is at. It's putting you on familiar footing of what we know from the 50s. And then we get them going down into the basement as the bombs hit. There's a slight twist at the end that was really cool. But hey, this is written by Stephanie Phillips, who I really enjoy. I loved what she did on Artemis and the Assassin. And then the art is by Tony Shastine. And even though it's mostly just set up, you don't get too much, involved in the story. I think it's ripe for where we're going to go next. And so I'm definitely keeping this on my pull list. I will get issue #2, but Nuclear Family, check it out for yourself. I dug it. So that's it. That's the comic books for this week. I hope you enjoyed the reviews. Of course, I hope to be back on track here with my normal reviews on a weekly basis. But we have a lot of great things coming up. Always love talking comics, hanging out, and you guys, I thank you so much for supporting the show. Couldn't do this without you, and I really appreciate you. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and get on my merry way. So always remember to support your local comic shop, and Excelsior. We'll see you, folks.